Truth and Tea with the Urban Evangelist. Welcome to Truth and Tea with the Urban Evangelist.
I am so excited that you made it back to Truth and Tea. I'm the Urban Evangelist, and this is one special episode because it is Women's Day. We are celebrating the unique design, the unique offering that is the woman. And my guest today happens to be in green as well. I mean, it's a coincidence, but they say great minds think alike, right? And I think green is symbolic of growth, of life, of just health, of wealth. And joining me today is Dr. Nellie Kangwa, who is a woman who embodies all of this, really. I mean, she's a life coach, she's an author, she's the founder of Project Life Design, Women in the Marketplace, Liberty in Christ Ministries. She's about to take a very special trip in a few days. There's so much about you, Dr. Nellie, but first let me just catch my breath, pause, and welcome you to Truth and Tea.
Thank you so much. What an opportunity.
It's so good to have you.
And your green is very nice.
Oh, thank you. I'm loving yours too.
Thanks.
Okay, so you are on your way somewhere, and you're taking women along with you. I mean, that just cannot be a coincidence. Please tell us a bit more about that. What's happening and where are you going? And what's the big deal with that?
Okay, so starting from the time I was young, I always look out for someone who's struggling. And being a pastor's child, that has been something that, inherent, I believe that God just, made me to be born in that family for me to just get myself aligned. So I look out for someone who is not really finding their way. And I call myself a destiny rescuer, but also a destiny shepherd. So people would come to me as a pastor, but also as a life coach, as a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner with different issues. When they come to me, then I realize that the reason why they're going through the things they're going through is because they've got nothing to do, or they haven't discovered their purposes, they haven't, dug deep into their inherent gift. And as a result, they're frustrated, could be frustrated wife, frustrated husband, because you're starting to look down upon yourself because you cannot provide. Right. So other than me dealing with what they came for, I like looking at an individual holistically to see exactly why has this person come into my life.
Exactly.
Yeah, so for years now, I've been working with different individuals, a lot of women, youths, but also a few men have been coming in, in large numbers at this point in time. So I work to find their inherent gift and help them to work on it, to internationalize it, to get themselves to monetize it. Yeah. And so because of that work that I've been doing, in 2019 first, the United Nations recognized the work that I've been doing because I used to go into different, places, compounds like Kanyama, Chipata compound, Linda compound, to help women grow mushrooms and just a few things that really made the women, to have that, assertive working up and all. So they recognized the work and they gave me a Chairwoman Award in 2019. So I built on.
That was no small feat, not at all. You should be proud. I'm proud just listening to, what you're so passionate about and doing it so well.
Just to know that other people are watching. Exactly. When you're doing something and you go to a place, you don't know who's watching. But then to just see that people are watching and that they get to recognize that was really a milestone. So I had to step on that to really, maximize now the use of that. And later on, they appointed me as special envoy, ambassador, to ensure that, I'm like speaking on what is happening out there. There's so many people are doing a lot of things, but they're not visible. So I've been helping people to be visible. Like, look, social media platform is what you need to utilize, not for you to just tell people that you're going to Lusaka or you're drinking Coca-Cola. No, you need to post what you're doing because you don't know who's watching.
And so, it's amazing you say that about social media. I mean, the UN theme for Women's Day is, equity, like digitally, like digital. So I mean, it's also a time really to leverage some of these platforms that we have so much access to. I mean, you can literally use digital content to make a difference.
I'm telling you.
Like you're doing now on Truth and Tea.
But many people don't know actually that that platform is not just for jokes. and for spreading rumors. You can actually make money out of that just by bringing your gift, improving it, adding value to it. And somebody is waiting to come and pay when you have actually added value to it. And so that is what I've been doing for quite some time. And so this year, beginning from last year, we submitted a number of profiles for people that have been working with to help them internationalize their brands and for them to become captains of industry. And
would these be like SMEs?
Yes,
or
SMEs.
Just startups?
Basically,
or even just individuals?
Individuals, but also these have become SMEs now because working
okay.
with them, it's where you are saying, okay, step one.
Yeah.
You know, what's the name of your company? What will you be doing? Go to PACRA, go and register, go and do this, go and do that and everything. And this business starts growing. So they're receiving different awards. Some of them, it's, achievements that they've made. Some of them, it's an entrepreneurship award. Then we've got some legendary men, a few men that are on the same team that I'm actually taking. Yeah, so we'll be going to the New York City and taking a group of women and a few men to receive different awards. It's just such a joy that I have contributed in these people's lives.
Absolutely.
And now they are being recognized. Who knows what will happen after they receive these awards?
And all this simply because you took the time, to sit someone down, to talk to them, to try and help them figure out what their, like you say, inherent abilities are, and just to nurture that and harness it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that more and more people should be doing, really. If these are the end results, I believe that we can completely create a revolution amongst ourselves as women.
Very
really.
true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
So back to, your passion for helping women, for drawing them to their purpose and their God-given identity, there's also a side to you that likes to bring healing and wholeness to women. And what I've learned from you over the years in watching you quietly from the sidelines is that you are big on investing and reinvesting in yourself, and just so focused on evolving as well as a person. And so I was really happy to learn that you are working with victims of sexual abuse. But my jaw dropped when I learned that it was sexual abuse in the church. I mean, ordinarily, these are two things that should not be going together, but it is happening, and you are onto that. Could you just take me through, what compelled you to delve into this area of work?
Okay, so it started a long time ago, like I earlier mentioned, being a pastor's child. So I used to watch a lot that was going on, especially when people came, to my parents to complain about what was going on in their homes. So it began from there. Right. So being the girl, I would be privy to that information because probably I'm the one who is serving them with a cup of tea or with water. So it was from there where the passion started growing. I usually tell people that anything that is bad, if only you can, focus on it, there is a good side of it. What I didn't know was that God was growing my heart, for me, not to be angry at what I was listening to, but to develop a solution. So from the age of 9, I began to work on this, like deeply working on what solution can I bring, instead of me just sitting in a corner, like wondering and crying and everything. So I began to come up with different solutions. So I've authored some books to help women, find their place of expression. I also realized that most of these women that were being abused were as a result of issues to do with, education. They didn't have money, they didn't have anything to do. So more like they found themselves giving permission to be abused. I also discovered that most of them were being abused was also because of ignorance. So they would go to this man of God. They are so ignorant about the word. They don't know they can hear God. There is a place for a prophet. But I realized that most of them, it's like this becomes their God. They don't want to hear what God is saying concerning their lives. And they are going through different situations. And some of those situations, you find that they just begin to manipulate them. So there is a prophetic, there is also God touching somebody. But what I began to observe being in the church was there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of drama and all this, prophetic. And, it's like women, we are emotionally driven.
Right.
So that would excite a woman. Yeah. And so they are the ones who are falling. They are the ones who are vomiting. They are the ones who are making noises. So when I'm I can be outgoing, but I really pay attention to things and I like questioning God. Why is it that it's a woman who is just falling? It's a woman who is this and this and this. So I would have those conversations with God. And because I'm solution-based and not judgmental-based, I began to research what causes a woman to be abused emotionally, what causes a woman to be abused sexually. It doesn't just start like, oh, someone wants to abuse you. No, it starts from somewhere. That ignorance about why you are going through the things that you are going through. That is why I authored this book, Transitioning to the Courts of Heaven. Because I realized that many of them, they've got issues, and why they are rushing to a pastor and really making this pastor become like their God, it is because they've got some contentions in their foundations. And those contentions, they don't answer by you falling. They don't answer by you just manifesting with a demon and vomiting. Those, contentions are legal. And therefore, because they are legal, you've got to understand the other aspect of God, that he's a judge. And Satan would always go into the courts to go and accuse you. And therefore, you won't solve a problem by falling. So I had to provide some solutions. So I started doing some spiritual boot camps where people would come, fasting, gather to teach them on how not to depend on a man of God, not to depend on some prophets, but begin to help them to understand if there are issues that they are going through, God is able, to help them. Yes, a man of God is there to give them a hand. But I realized that then it started getting into sexual abuse because these innocent women would go to some prophet to go complain about their marriages, what their husbands are doing in the home, and. So you find that these women, they go sometimes innocently. They don't go wanting to be abused. They go there innocently. They are depending upon this papa. They are looking up to him and all. Before you know it, their mind is manipulated. By the time, this woman actually realizes that this person wants to sleep with them, the person has already slept with them. And then when this, pastor or whatever they are called sleeps with them, they become, there's something that they do, because I've interviewed a lot of them. Okay. So this woman now begins to feel guilty. So they begin to make her feel she led them. Like this woman led a pastor, to do what he did. So this woman now becomes vulnerable. She becomes vulnerable in the church because one Sunday you hear this pastor preaching against women who tempt him, and so she's sitting there, she starts feeling guilty. Also, there are these mamas that surround this so-called man of God that you cannot go and report yourself to them because they will call you, you want to destroy the man of God because they believe in this man of God. So most of them are, they hate the church. They don't want to even go back to church. I'm dealing with a number of them. And
how many would you say you're dealing with?
Oh, I can't. Because it's been so progressive, but I think I could say over 500.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's progressive. So
and is that Lusaka alone?
No, not Lusaka alone, but there's been a number of them on the Copper Belt also. Wow. It's been amazing. There was a time, actually, I think I even got loud. I got onto social media and I began to really, speak that, look, we are here to help you. You'll be surprised. I received, phone calls. I received, don't talk about men of God on social media platforms, on this. There's so much that is being protected, about this man who is messing up than the victim. And for me, I think that's what gets to me, that how about this member? If you are saying, don't say this about this man of God, how about this woman? Exactly. Look at her life and what is going on. And some of them, they've ended up losing their marriages because their husbands then get to hear what is happening. But also, as a married woman, you don't want to share because you don't want to say if your husband hears it. So the married women who are dying with that, they have been abused and they will remain in that church, abused as victims, and they will never leave that church. They are the ones who just have to be like, there are three,
And
four
is
of them.
that very common? Like, is that like a scarlet thread where they've been abused, but they're still in the church? Do you come across that
Yes.
a lot? Are there any that have actually had the courage and the strength to speak out and to walk
Yeah,
away?
there are some of them who have actually, most of them actually, they walk away. But the sad part is the healing. It takes long, because when this is a person they looked up to. If somebody just passed by, rapes them, I've dealt with some rape issues and all, the healing is different, compared to, the abuse in the church, the sexual abuse in the church, because it's like they looked so much up to this person like a god. I don't know where they got it from, but a few of them manage to leave, but most of them that leave, they end up not wanting to go to church or even trusting anything that has to do with church. Then there are some who cannot leave the church. They are there because the husband is there. So they can't say, but this thing has been happening.
Them staying at home would be exposing what has taken place, like you said, and they're trying to sit in it.
So better they just sit there. And then those that sit there, do you know that they also know the victims? That is what shocks me, that they know that that girl is not a victim, is a next victim. And they won't say, they won't even warn that person. So you find that in the church, there can be 10 of them that are victims, and they can tell on each other that that one is a victim.
Doc,
but they will
that sounds
still
like
be there.
pure sexual predatory.
Yes.
Like these are predators hiding in the church.
Yes, yeah, very true. And it's where you sit back and you wonder, can you bring the law? What will protect, for example, what would protect me? Okay, if I went and spoke out and said, okay, reprimand this person, this is what is happening. It's very, our law, there is need to really work on our law, on how we are going to protect these, victims that are being abused, especially in the church, especially in the church, because there is a lot of protection, and then because you don't have evidence, because you didn't record him, you didn't, keep certain things that were really happening that time. It is, a multitude against one voice. And so you just die. You just die inside. So there are several of them that I'm working with. Some of them are becoming, coaches themselves. I'm training them to help others and all. So I do these things mostly in the hush-hush, hush-hush, this quiet. They come and you confidentiality and all that. At some point, there was even a group WhatsApp that was developed where they started recruiting each other. I had to disband
the
it.
victims?
Yes, they started
to
recruiting
seek
each
help.
other, to seek
But
help.
that is very telling of the fact that there's actually a hunger and a desire to be helped and to speak on these issues. And there's a lot that you've touched on, but I just want to unpack a few questions so we can just get a better understanding of what some of the things that happen within the confines of a church are that help perpetrate this. And based on some of what you've touched on, it seems to me that abuse does not happen in a vacuum.
No.
Usually there's, systems in place, whether it be it in a church or around maybe the said man of God that help, to make abuse easier, whether it's, abuse of their power, abuse of their authority over their congregation, but it doesn't happen in a vacuum.
No,
there's things that support it. What are the typical patterns that you've come across, in church setups where this is highly prevalent?
What will surprise you is that in some of these places, even pastor's wife would be aware. It's shockingly so that should be aware. Some of them would be the ones who are even, because I think it's that amount to witchcraft. I don't know how, because the victims feel like a spell. It's like something has been cast on them to keep on, wanting to be with this man. But then you wonder, how should even the wife probably be the one? Like there was a case that I handled where the wife is the one who even left, like when she went for counseling, and then she deliberately left the room. So it's like it was arranged, and all. So there are such systems where even the wife is part of, and it's happening,
problem, really.
part of the problem.
Because if I'm going to go to like a male, person, because it's not always the pastors alone or the prophets
Yeah.
that abuse. It
Yeah.
could be even men in the church,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
What probably would give me a level of comfort is knowing that, okay, there's female presence in the room, but then when you step out,
Yeah.
you leave me exposed and vulnerable. So, like you said, that is being part of the problem.
Yeah, it's being part of the problem because why has she left?
Yeah.
And so you find 3, 4 narrate similar story, then you know that, okay, in that church, even pastor's wife is involved. Then in certain places, pastor's wife knows and she is equally in pain because she knows what the husband is doing. She can't go to tell on him. So she dies with it because if she leaves this man, she's going to be judged. You know the way when divorce has taken place in our culture, it's a woman to blame. So she'll live with a problem. She'll be miserable. So I've dealt with pastors' wives also, and sometimes I do conferences with pastors' wives, and you find that it is from those meetings that in a confidential way, some of them can now come out and share with you what they're going through. And this man of God would be protected by armor bearers and all, and the wife is aware of what is going on and the people that he is sleeping with, because you can tell by the way probably those girls, they are high tithers in the church, they're the ones who are being consulted on projects and everything, and she's voiceless. Yeah. So some of them get to help them to be fully independent, and for them, because if you just sit in that church and you say, oh, I'm here, like you are just a potted plant, I'm here, call me my booth and everything, that is where they lose their self-worth. But most of them, when you begin to groom them, you begin to help them to find their purpose. They look, your purpose is not pastor's wife. There's something inherent within you that we can help you become and, begin to live purpose and begin to focus on what really God gave to you. Then you see that these other things, they are not going to really get so much at you. This thing is big. It is big, and it's happening.
I'm inclined to ask, is this where we now need regulation of churches? How churches are formed, what structures do we have in place? Because it's sounding to me as if there's absolute power and it's not regulated, this is going to continue happening.
It's going to continue, yeah. It's going to continue. And if you look maybe 5 years, 10 years ago.
And no accountability as well, and no transparency.
That is why the mother bodies, I think, need to come in. This thing is bigger than meets the eye. And there's been, whistleblowing. And
I think it's bigger than you. You're doing a great
it's
job,
bigger
but there
than
needs to be so much more being done.
Yes, a lot of fathers also need to come to the party, because someone made a joke to say, okay, how can the fathers come to the party when they are also... But I don't know how true that is anyway, but we need mother bodies to also come to the party, because it needs to become a national cry, so that it shouldn't just be, one person who is speaking out, because then when one person is speaking out, you can just be silenced. It's easy to be silenced. But when all these small churches, there's a system of, belonging, to a mother body, and you are answerable to somebody and all. And that's what I educate a lot of young ladies to say, look, as you are going to that church, who is the pastor answerable to?
Right.
Who is a shut up voice? Right. So how can you just sit in a church where he's the Alpha and the Omega by himself? There's no person he respects. He will just say, oh, my father is in Nigeria. No, they like saying their father is in Nigeria, because that person, they simply admire him in Nigeria, and they say they submit to him on Facebook. How can you submit to somebody on Facebook? So this thing, it's not just about, oh, women are being abused. I think even a lot of pastors, they need help, because for them to do the things that they are doing, they equally need help. I at some point, I was getting upset, but I said having compassion, because I realized for somebody to be doing the things that they are doing, they are sick. Yeah, they are sick. Something is not just right. I don't think they are not happy at all, because whatever it is that they are doing, you cannot stand on the pulpit, you are preaching, and you've got 3, 4 people you are sleeping with. How can even you do that? So they equally need help. Yeah.
Where does the legal aspect begin to come in here? Because This is bordering on rape, on sexual assault as well. I know there's different types of abuse. Obviously, there might be harassment, someone just, passing remarks that are, offensive. It could be maybe touch, or it could be, like you've said, like outrightly just sleeping with women in the church. But at what point do we then begin, as the body of Christ, to work in conjunction with the law to put an end to some of these things? Because I know the victims have their own process, but what should the process look like for a predator or a perpetrator, rather?
Our law, I think, needs to really be looked into, because if you don't have evidence, you get to lose. So how are you going to...
So most of these women cannot do anything beyond just seeking some help because they've got no evidence.
They've got no evidence, because probably even there was one that I dealt with who had WhatsApps, like, communication that was really misleading. And I began to work with her to say, you know what, you've got something that you can actually show, and oh my God, the threats that this person received, and how this person somehow retrieved some information to begin blackmailing her, and so it's like this whole thing is a cartel. And so to really catch the perpetrator, there is need for a certain level of intelligence. So we cannot just pray it out, okay? Prayer has got its place, but I think there's need to also bring in the legal aspect, the physical aspect here on earth. We can't just pray these victims, out, and pray for this person that has gone through this thing. There is need for this nation, to arise, so that when a woman, goes and reports, you can't just wake up as a woman to say, oh, this one slept with me. Seriously, there could be some things that, can lead to that. And what I've been telling some of the ladies when we are having some of these conversations, it's also that's why you've got a phone. Sometimes put it on record, so if this person has been abusing you, follow up with another planned abuse. Because with that planned abuse now, you can put on the phone to ensure that you record, or, you pick some voices as evidence. But it's not easy. It hasn't been easy, because it's like the voice that is a victim is very small compared to the perpetrators, because the perpetrator is not alone. The perpetrator is connected in his church. He has got lawyers. In the church, he has judges. In the church, so he has all these people that will silence you, because I'm speaking from experience. Where are you going to go? Hello, girl, where are you going to go? Because you have the money that I have. Do you have any lawyer to represent you? You will lose this, and you lose your name, because this thing is going to be publicized and your name is going to be dented. So just pack it and let it go.
What I find so sad, so painful, is that a woman would undergo something like this and still choose to remain a member of the congregation without the power, without the strength to walk away, the boldness, the courage to just face the situation head on. And it takes me back to one of your books, The Making of a Woman, where you highlighted that sometimes we might not even understand ourselves as women, the strength, the power that we have. Would therein lay part of the problem, in that we've not fully understood who we are?
Yes, because from the church itself, that is where they highlight one scripture that a woman is a weaker vessel. They don't, contextualize it. So a young child is born, a young girl is born, and she's being told you are a weaker vessel. She's being told most of these things are for men. I think in one of the interviews, I don't know if it was with you or with another person, they interviewed me on how I became a woman of God. Because when I was ordained at the age of 17, after my dad passed on, I was disordained. Here is a young girl who has a call of God. I was very passionate about leading people to the Lord, and so I was ordained. My first ordination was an evangelist. My dad passes on. He was my support system. The elders of the church, because my dad has passed on, arose on a Sunday to disordain me. So if I was not a strong person, I don't know where I could have ended to be. So there are all these, things that are going on in the church to disempower a woman. I went for a funeral in a particular country. I was not veiled. Do you know they wanted to stop me from entering a church, that I'm not holy because I didn't put on a veil on my head, so I can't enter. So there are all these, things that, a woman doesn't just wake up and tell herself, I'm weak. There is all these information that you are growing up to know and learn and hear, and they form strongholds, and these strongholds, they are mindsets. And that mindset now, when good information comes and says, as a woman, you can make it. You can do as much as a man can do. You can this and that. You're like, really, me? And this mindset is, Paul calls it a stronghold in the book of 2 Corinthians, that we need to pull it down, because these are imaginations. These are high things that have exalted themselves above the knowledge of God. And so you find that even in the church, that is where women also are not really taught to arise. They are, it's like, that is why you find that there are more women meetings where we have to feel good, say certain things that will make us, feel happy. A lot of them have also mushroomed where they just waste time. They go there, fire, fire, fire. And women have gathered the whole day calling on this fire, calling on these blessings. They come from that meeting, nothing has happened. And all because they're just looking and they're trying to find where they can find solace and all. So there's need for an overhaul. I'm telling you, there's need for an overhaul, spiritual overhaul, for us to really understand our place as women. Because when I began to research from the Word of God to find out the place of a woman, my friend, oh my God, that is why a woman is really taunted. Because the moment a woman finds herself and she knows her purpose, even when she chooses to submit, because now she's understood her purpose, so she's doing it as unto the Lord. This knowing of self doesn't now make you to be, rough. And you have to still keep your femininity. You still have to keep, you are a woman, for heaven's sake. And enjoy being a woman. If you're a married woman, enjoy. The submission should not really be so difficult. But you know why it becomes difficult? Because there are fights that we have in our minds. If I don't do this, he can do this to me. I heard another woman was beaten. Me, I won't be beaten. So you begin to fight with your own self and so on and so forth. We are not enjoying who we really are from God's point of view. The strength we have going into labor ward, the way God has entrusted us with this uterus, and how that it is likened to this, tabernacle of Moses, the power that we carry as women. We haven't understood all that. And that is why many times, because we haven't understood that, we give permission to be abused. And I like saying this in neuro-linguistic programming when I'm dealing with people that I'm training, that you need to help people to change the meaning they are giving to whatever has happened. So because we're emotional beings, so we give meanings to things. And so when we give a meaning to something, that is what disempowers us. Because what has been spoken, what has been said, what has been done to me, I give it a disempowering meaning. And that is what makes me now to be disempowered and become more vulnerable. How about changing the meaning of what happened? And I've managed to help one young girl, and with several ones, but this one has a reason, because she kept on feeling rubbish because she was abused by an uncle. So she felt like she's a nobody, and when she was moving around, she thought like everybody knows what this man has been doing for 5 years. And I began to work with her. Now she arose to change the meaning of what happened to her, and she accepted that she was vulnerable. At that time, she was young, she couldn't defend herself. Now she's old, so she can defend herself. And there's a girl out there who needs to hear about what it meant for her to keep quiet for so many years, and what, she was even bound because she was quiet. So she has a reason to speak. And now she tells the young girls, don't be quiet. When this happens, when somebody touches you like this, don't be quiet. She has a reason. She's receiving an award for arising. She's traveling. She's going out to different places, and air tickets being bought for her. And she's leaving. You see, she's leaving because she changed the meaning. She hasn't been looking at what happened with a negative aspect. She has changed the meaning of what took place, and she's now looking at the positive on how she can impact other people, on how she can help this young girl who is in school. And now, so many young girls are entrusting her to say, I can't tell mommy. Please don't tell mommy this that I've told you. And now she's arising and she's helping many young daughters. She took long, she's like 20-something. But these ones now are 12, 13. Yeah. And there is a helper who has come at the age of 13, more than it happened to her. So that is what I like helping women to say, look, whatever has happened to you, why don't you change the lenses and look at it as a positive thing for you to arise. Even my arising hasn't been because I was getting angry at the things I was listening, to the things that women were going through. So as I was listening to all that, instead of now making that anger for me to become a victim, I used that to build passion, to become a solution, so that I can be a solution instead of a victim of pain. Because if I entertained those feelings, I wasn't going to get married. I'm telling you the truth, because what I saw was rubbish. What I saw in marriages was rubbish. So I was going to arise and become that feminine. Marriage is rubbish. Never get married. Yeah. But no. I began to research and I found answers of how you can still be 30 years now in marriage, because I changed the lenses and I began to give meaning to things in a different way. Yeah.
I want to take you back to a statement on giving ourselves permission to be abused. Mm-hmm. I need you to qualify that, because when you just first hear it, your mind automatically stands opposed. Like, I went through something so horrible and so traumatic. How could I possibly have given myself permission to undergo abuse of any form?
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I'll answer it in two ways. So there is this person who has been abused and you are angry at that abuse, and you cannot even advance your career, you can't advance your purpose, you are upset with what happened and all. I'll go back to what I teach. You have given meaning, and the meaning that you have given is what is binding you.
Okay.
So this thing happened.
Yeah.
Can you change it? The answer is no. This thing happened. Okay? So now, but can you take responsibility by giving it a different meaning? Because as much as you are looking at it, and you are looking at it with pain, you're looking at it with anger, you are now, like increasing or speeding up, the ruin of your future. So you now cannot, because you've been already abused or something has already happened, why would you want to give it more power? Because now you give it more power and it will keep on ruining your next 5 years.
So in short, this is the aftermath of the abuse after it's taken place.
Whatever has happened in someone's life, you can choose to either die with that, whatever has taken place, because that thing has happened. Okay, this thing has happened. And now, because this thing has happened, now what happens, how you apply yourself to it's like response. That's what differentiates us, is how we respond. We can go through the same thing. God forbid, we can go through widowhood at the same time. How I will take the loss of my husband and how you will take the loss of your husband will be totally different. And that is what will define who we are. It's after this event. So we cannot make an event to become the definition of purpose or definition of your life. You've got to know this is an event, this something happened. Will I choose now to give this thing power to keep on taking away? So you give it permission. Oh, he did this. Oh, he beat me up. Oh, my husband did this. He broke my heart. He slept with another woman. He did. What are you doing? You are giving permission to be abused. But if you sit there and say, okay, you beat me up and all, I had no power to defend myself and all, what I'll do is, first and foremost, I'll forgive you, because I don't know what you are also wrestling with. Because you could be suffering your own abuse from home and you are dealing with the things you did not deal with or that you watched your father do. So there is a way you can change the meaning, because that person is violent, not just because of you. He could be violent because he watched the father. being violent. So why would you want to be a victim of the past of this guy? So you can now give different meaning to say, okay, thank you for what has happened, and this was painful, but I'm not going to give another minute for me to be bound in this, because I cannot give permission to be abused. So I'll give myself permission to live. I'll give myself permission to focus on my purpose. I'll give myself permission to go back to school. So you give yourself permission to pick your pieces up and begin to run, because this thing has happened. Girl, accept it has happened. And because it has happened, you were helpless, or maybe you were, your mind was, was being played. So stop blaming that, oh, like somebody sent me a message of, no, but after he used me, impregnated me, now he dumped me. So for 2 years, you are upset because someone used you, slept with you. My friend, also take ownership. He didn't just sleep with you. You enjoyed together. Take ownership of certain things. So do you know that it is blame shifting that made us to lose authority in the Garden of Eden? But when God was asking Adam, where are you? This wife you've given me. Okay, wife, what's going on? The serpent. And you know what? The serpent took responsibility. And that is why when you follow through the acceptance of what the serpent did, that is where you find in the book of Luke, chapter 4, when there's that temptation between Jesus and Satan, where he's saying, this authority that I was given. So he was given authority because he took responsibility of what he did. Adam refused to take responsibility, shifted blame. Eve shifted blame. Every time you shift blame and you do not, I call responsibility as ability to respond. You need to have ability to respond to any situation that you come across in life. That is a likeness of God that God has given every person. You don't have to be a believer. He created us in his own image. But the second thing is the likeness of God, meaning we are able to deal with any darkness. When he saw it was dark, he spoke light. And that ability is in each person. But then, are you able to use it? Or are you going to continue dying, without you living again? And what your eulogy read like? You were born and abused and were upset with the abuser and you died. Really? Is that how you can end your life? There is more to life than that one event. So I'm not diminishing the pain. I'm not diminishing what took place. All I'm saying is every woman can pick up her pieces. Every woman, all of us, you have a story. I have a story. So we have a reason, not because we didn't face challenges. We are just saying, look, you know what? If I sit here and build, like my mother would say, at Pamuzipansembe, we're like regretting, like you build a house, like, oh, Sembe, I wish I didn't do this. You cannot build a house in such a village. You can't, because it will ruin your life. Whatever it is that happened, never regret. There is enough within you to pull yourself. That is why we are lifting each other and one another as women, because we've realized that, look, if you do not know how to give yourself permission to live, I can teach you, I can show you how you can give yourself permission to live again. Yeah.
You are doing so much, Dr. Nellie, and I just want to find out, what has your work taught you about yourself as a woman? I know you're doing a lot, in the space of women and for women, but when it comes to you as an individual, what has that drawn out of you?
Is actually to master time, and not to manage time, but to master. So I've come to understand time mastery. And time mastery is where I've understood we've got 24 hours. So I'm this career woman. I'm also a pastor. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. How do I then still be relevant at home? How can I be relevant to these people that are also crying for my help? So I've learned to really bring in an understanding of prioritizing, things. So at that moment, so today I need to be with Mainza. If I need to be with her, what will I be doing? At this moment, everything about me, holistically, I push in my energy to ensure that I give this interview my very best. When I leave here, there are still other things that I'll be doing. So I do a lot of, I've done series on the YouTube, boardroom to bedroom. And bedroom is not like the room, but the home front. And boardroom is the marketplace. And I've analyzed the two places, and I've really done good justice. So I'm writing a book on it so that, because I've learned, I had to learn. I didn't just arrive here and I'm like, oh, I know how to juggle. No. I messed up big time. And then I had now to do some, some reverse and say, okay, I could have done better here. So how can I help an upcoming woman of God? How can I help an upcoming career woman? So that's how I've come up with principles and, concepts that can be of help, that have helped me to remain balanced and focused. And, so I do a lot of exercising, I help a lot of women to exercise. We do them on Zoom and, just be happy wherever you are and just jump up and down and do everything about yourself, love yourself and all. So as I'm teaching them, I'm also loving me. Yeah. Because some of them think like I've got all it together. No. There are times when I look myself in the mirror like, oh, Nellie, you've put on too much word. You need to whatever. I've got to speak it out and really just bring myself to also love me. So I've got time when I take leave.
And I love that you also deliberate about looking after yourself.
Oh, yeah, big
as
time.
much as you're pursuing purpose.
Yeah, because menopause has caught on, so I can't just sit back and relax. I've got to really keep up. Yeah.
Like that. No, it's been a very enriching discussion and conversation, and especially one, on a day like this where, like you said, there's a lot of voices, there's a lot being said out there, but ultimately it's just, trying to draw womanhood back to what God intended for it to be. I'm just going to throw one last question your way before I let you go. And this is that, you've done a very good job at discovering your purpose and you know who you are, your identity is rooted in Christ. That might not be the case for a woman that might be watching this episode, so how does she find her sure footing in who she was created to be and just, live her best life as God intended it to be. We're so big on live your best life. What does that look like, really?
Yeah. And there's a lot of discover your purpose.
Right,
so what is this?
Exactly.
Okay, so this is the basic way I answer it. So you see that a dog does not struggle to bark. A lion does not struggle to roar. So everything that was created by God, there's that thing that is inside, within the person. And how do you know? It's so easy to do. You find it so easy to do that thing. The second thing you discover is that you were not taught. You found yourself doing it. The more you do it, the better you are becoming at that thing. Then when you don't do it, you actually feel bad that you didn't do that thing, whatever it is. Yeah. And then you find that it's very easy for you to do it for free. Okay? But then eventually, if you work on it more and add value to it, you can actually monetize it. But it's something that you can give easily. So you need to ask yourself, what is it that I can do easily without struggle? Because you were born with it, so you shouldn't struggle. Just like you cannot feel sorry for a dog, like, oh my God, this dog has been barking for such a long time. I'm sure the vocal cords, you can teach a parrot to bark, but later on you find that the vocal cords cannot take it because it was not designed to do that. So every woman, as you're listening to me right now, you were designed to do something and you know it because it is there. You do it, freely. You don't struggle and you can do it for free. You don't have to be paid to do it. Yeah. But eventually, as you are now growing in that, start adding more value so that you can monetize it. That is what will pay you. That is what you will give out to the world, and the world will pay for it because you can see I can go on talking because I was born, this is inherent in me. I don't have to come with notes for me to teach because it's so inherent.
It's just flowing.
Yes, but you know what I've done now? I've learned to package it. I never used to speak like this. My English was not the way it is today. But I had to take my mouth to school. Somebody had to train me to say, oh, don't pronounce the word like learning, say learning. Oh, really? Yeah, so I had to learn.
I like how that flowed out of you.
So I had to learn that because you know what? This is inherent inherently me. So when I'm going to different places, there are people who are waiting to listen to what I've got to say. And I can't apologize. I don't mind my English, my English is not too good. No. I had to take it back to school a little bit. So somebody started teaching me to say, okay, this is how you pronounce words. This is how you talk to people. This is how you use your hands. This is how. So now, when I speak in certain places, they give me a bit of money. Yeah.
And that's a woman living on purpose. It's been Dr. Nellie Kangwa. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have your presence on the Truth and Tea podcast. And do have a great time in New York. Share lots of pics and keep inspiring us like you always do.
Thank you. Next time we go together next year.
Absolutely. I need to spend some time with you.
Yes, so that we can get that brand. Because you're doing a lot too. You're doing a lot. So we need to just package it nicely and then, go and have it spotlighted.
To live our best life.
Yes.
So a happy Women's Day to every beautiful queen that has watched this episode. And thank you to all the men that are a great support system. I mean, yeah, we see you too. So don't forget, you can catch the Truth and Tea podcast on Radio Christian Voice every Wednesday at 7 p.m. And also do look out for uploads onto the YouTube channels, The Urban Evangelist and Radio Christian Voice. It's been Truth and Tea, filtering life through faith.